Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and welcome to 7 short game reviews. Today I have a very big stretch between my favorites and the ones I'm not as keen on about these different games. But here we go, small games, big games. Let's get started. First we have Tricks and Treats. Tricks and Treats is a game from Emerson Matsuuchi. In fact, this is the first game that I've ever played from him. It's now been redesigned by Trick or Treat Studios, which makes sense. Well, that's in the name of their studio. It's a little card game. Let me show you. It's about collecting candy after the end of, trick-or-treating. You're getting candy in your bucket, but then Mom's like, all right, we're going to split this up evenly. Thanks, Mom. Let me show you. In this game, you're going to have a bunch of these lettered baskets out. The order doesn't really matter. There are some possible extra baskets that you can add. There's tons of these that you can play like an advanced game, so you might have 1 or 2 of these out here also. And then you have a deck of candy cards that are different types of candies with numbers on them. On your turn, you're going to hand up these cards, you're going to draw one, then you're going to add a card to any basket. So I might decide to put one in C. Now, what makes me decide which one to put in where? Well, at the beginning of the game, each player will have a bucket, and that's your bucket. That's the candy that you want. So you're obviously going to put most candy in your basket, but you can also tattle on somebody on your turn. When you tattle, I'm saying this bucket here, the A bucket, is definitely Jim's. And if I'm correct, Jim is out of the game. If I'm incorrect, I'm out of the game. And we're going to keep going until everyone is out of the game or until we've played different candy in the baskets. And candy can be played in these baskets and different things will happen also, special things. At the end of the game, if everyone but one player has been eliminated, that player is the winner. Otherwise, you're going to get points for your candy baskets. You get 1 point for each candy that's there and 4 points for each person who you were able to figure out who they were over the course of the game, and you've tattled on them. Whoever has the most points is the winner. This is a nice little light game. It is, it's simply putting out candy. You want to put candy in a bucket and make people think that's your bucket, but then they know that you think that's your bucket, so therefore they're not going to pick that, but you know that they think that you put that in your bucket, and so on and so forth. I like that. The candy theme works well. The special buckets have a little bit of text on them. In fact, a lot of text on some of them, but you can just cut those out, but the game's really quick. I mean, you could be eliminated in this game, but it's like 10, 15 minutes at most. So a nice little kind of filler, pick-em-up style game with the Halloween theme that I think a lot of people will enjoy, that whole idea of getting the candy and just trying to guess and outguess other people. I enjoyed this one. I give it a 7 out of 10. That's Tricks and Treats. Emerson, of course, he's best known for his big game, Foundations of Rome, but this one, his first one, still works really well. Have you ever wanted to be a dinosaur doctor? That's what Paleo Vet does. In Paleo Vet, they tell you about a dinosaur island, unnamed, where there was a park and everything went badly, and now the dinosaurs are getting sick, and you need to go in there and heal them faster than other people. So let's take a look at how it plays, and we'll be right back. In Paleo Vet, you are trying to cure different dinos. All these dinos are sick, and there's going to be face-up piles in front of you. Each player is going to start with some dice, and you have the opportunity to gain more dice as the game goes by. So you're going to be collecting these dice. You're forced to take one each turn and put it in front of you. And when you put a dinosaur in front of you, that dinosaur is going to have sleep cubes put on it. So this one only has 1 put on it, but you can see these other ones have more. And at the beginning of each turn, this comes off. And at the end of your turn, if you haven't cured dinosaurs and they have no sleep cubes on, they run away. And in fact, if they're a carnivore, they'll eat one of your other dinosaurs on the way out. To cure them, you simply need to, each turn you'll roll dice, and you're going to try to roll these symbols here on the dice. The different color dice have more of one symbol type on them, although all dice have a wild symbol on them. You can spend 2 dice to get wild symbols that you can use in the future. You can also use dice, if you have tranquilizer darts, you can use them to get more dinosaurs in front of you. And you can use 3 of the same die to collect more dice, or you can also buy these cards here, which will give you special abilities, or they'll give you extra points. Like this one here gives a point for each yellow dinosaur that I've cured at the end of the game. Dinosaurs you cure are worth points, and you also get points for sets of dinosaurs. And when one of these piles is depleted, the game ends, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, one thing I'm not a big fan of in Paleo Vet necessarily is the art. The art's not bad per se, but if you look at it, it looks like coloring book art. So, if I had a dinosaur coloring book, that's fine. Other than that, this is a very family weight style game. You are collecting dinosaurs. You roll dice. You put those dice on the dinosaurs, and you get new dice as soon as you can, because the more dice, the more dinosaurs. Get the wild tokens. There's not a lot of major decisions to be made in this game. You're picking dinosaurs that you think you can deal with, because you roll first, then you take dinosaurs. You can, you take the wild tokens if you need to put on stuff. I like this concept. I don't think gamers are going to be really in love with this game, but I think families are going to enjoy it. So for that reason, I'm giving it a 7 out of 10. It's fine. It's enjoyable. You're collecting the dinosaurs. It's fun to be like, I cured a T-Rex. Them waking up is not nearly as worrisome as I thought it'd be. You're not going to take many dinosaurs if you don't think you can cure them in the future. Yes, you can run into a spot where you've taken too many of them and they start escaping. But overall, I like the theming of it, the dinosaur doctor. I like the extra dice. Dice are pretty good quality and all. And so it's, like I said, I don't know that this one's going to be winning any awards for originality, but just for straightforward play, it works. Starry Night Sky. Man, I'm already in on these games with astronomy. It's a theme that I like a lot. I like games that have stars, and this one here has some really cool little stars you're putting out on the board. It's a star placement style game, and it plays like this. In Starry Night Sky, you're trying to get the most points by discovering new constellations and finding stars in those constellations. On your turn, you're going to be moving your telescope around to different constellations in the night sky. If you're the first person to discover a constellation, you'll take one of these tokens and put it here, which will give you 1, 2, or 3 points depending on what time of the game that happens. At the beginning of a player's turn, they're going to draw 3 stars from the bag. Stars are red, blue, and yellow. And once you get these 3 stars, well, I got all red in this case, but you get to choose which of the spots that they're in. One of these spots can have 4 max. If it has 4 stars, you can't add any spots to that spot. When you go to a constellation, you'll be able to take stars from one pool and fill in empty spots on the constellation. If you manage to fill in the last spot in the constellation, you'll turn this token over. You're getting points as you put these stars in constellations. Once a constellation is complete, when players move, they can skip over that, just like you can skip over the start space, so you have a possibility to move farther if a lot of constellations are complete. Players are also drawing an exploration goal at the beginning of their turn. You can have up to 3 of these in front of you, and you'll get points if you do whatever it says. Like this gives me a point if I place 2 blue stars in one constellation on a turn. And then finally, at the beginning of the game, players will have myth cards that if at the end of the game, the 2 constellations shown on them are both complete, you will get bonus points. The game ends when all the exploration tokens at the top of the board are out, which is less than the constellations that are on the board, and then you just total up the points, and whoever has the most is the winner. Again, I think the game works really nice. Now, interestingly enough, those end game points are not nearly as important as you might think they are. That's kind of like a strategy tip. They can be the difference, but if you run and just do those, they're only a few points, and if someone just says, forget those end game points and just puts out a lot of stars and does their daily missions, I think that works better maybe. Those endgame missions seem to be just kind of an extra thing you do. But the game itself is nice. Pull some stars, put them in your thing, not quite Mancala style, but you're dropping them down, and then you move, and you drop stars on the board. Really easy. You get points for discovering stuff. You get points for putting stars. You get points for accomplishing your missions. And that just works really well. I like that when a constellation's finished, you can jump over it, making movement. You're never stuck. It just seems every turn you do something. Now, this is not, again, a particularly complex game, and that's good. Buffalo and Larkins, they did a good job putting this together. This is the kind of game that if it's sold in the store and people walk by and just pick it up, random folk, and they play it, I think they're going to be very appreciative of that, and it's an easy one to jump into. So I like it. 7 out of 10. That's Starry Night Sky. Race to the Raft. This is a game from Frank West and City of Games. And this is a sequel or prequel or, well, it's another game in the universe of Isle of Cats. In Isle of Cats, you're going and rescuing cats from an island. And it's very adored. People really enjoy it. Race to the Raft is a little bit like that in the same thing where you're trying to get these cats to race to get onto this raft. But this is a cooperative puzzle. So let me show you how it plays and we'll be right back. In Race to the Raft, you're going to play a scenario. And scenarios are not always going to be exactly the same. You can play through this whole campaign. But a scenario will have you put out some tile boards, show you where cats are, where fire starts. But even if you play the same scenario, the boards themselves, they have a fire side and a non-fire side, will be random in how you place them on here. What you're trying to do is you're trying to get these cats to the raft. So you'll place this raft here. The game comes with other special cards that you may use for various things. They're used for starting cards to help you get these cats off. Cats can only move on their type of terrain. So a blue cat can only move on water, a purple cat on purple, an orange cat on the trees, etc. And if you ever get a cat where they can't get to the raft, you lose. You need to get them off. Each round of the game, players are drawing cards from these 4 different decks here. Now the decks show you different types of terrain here, and the amount of terrain it shows you is the percentage of that terrain that you'll find on the back. So in a triangle, you're not going to find a lot of the orange trees, but you'll find a good amount of the purple and the yellow. While on the squares, you're going to find a lot of the green and the yellow. Look, there is a lot of green and yellow. And there's a lot of trees in this green, maybe not, but it's just throughout the whole deck. Players are going to draw these. They have limited communication that they can do with one another. And then you're going to take turns when you place tiles on the board, and maybe you're placing tiles in such a way to make a nice path for the cat to move. But whenever you place a tile, you're also drawing from this big bag of fire tiles where you're going to be placing these and extending the fire out. Again, trying not to cause it so that it blocks your cats from getting off. You also can move a cat. That requires you to discard a card from your hand the first time it's moved in a round. The second time it will be laying down as exhausted. The second time it will cost 2 cards. Once players have played their cards, you'll draw more cards and continue to do this until your cats have been surrounded by fire or until you get them to the raft. Now, just be clear, this is not an actual scenario. There's just some stuff I have laying on the table to give you an idea of how the game plays. There's some other things in the game that in scenarios will bring up other points, and there's pathways here for Onyx cats to move on, but that's generally how it plays, this cooperative game. There's a few things about this game that I'm not a big fan of in Race to the Raft. One is the game is ugly. Not the cover is fine, but the board and the way all the stuff looks, it's busy, the fire doesn't look good, it's a visual kind of, like I feel like you should be crossing your eyes and looking for the hidden 3D image that will show up. I just was not a big fan of that. At its core, it's a puzzle game. And I think it's okay as a solitaire game. As a group of people game, I highly dislike it. Because the communication, they do that really annoying, you need to do some communication, but not all of it. So I can say, I'm good for yellow or blue, but I can't tell you how many blue tiles are on my card. Even if I do tell you, there's just such weird communication. And there's even a rule in the game where when you get these cat tokens, you go meow, 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 and you have to just talk in meows. And while that's a funny aspect to a game, and I'm not even opposed to that being in a game, it doesn't mesh then with the very brainy puzzle. And so you're kind of working together, but not really. I mean, you're working together, but you don't know what each other can do. And I find it to be really unsatisfying as a puzzle. I'll go farther. I hate this as a co-op thing. Solitaire, it's fine, but it's a puzzle with a lot of randomness, and I'm a lot less interested in that. It's a puzzle where I'm like, I draw from this pile. It says there's tons of blues, but you know what? The tiles I drew had no blues on them. I guess I randomly lose. I like games where you solve puzzles and do things, but I don't even mind a bit of randomness. This feels like there's a little bit more than I'd like. The ugliness isn't really attracting it to me, and the fact that I hate it with more than one player make me pass on this one. Too bad. I really do love Isle of Cats. Race for the Raft, though, I'm giving a 4 to. Challengers 2. Well, this is actually not Challengers 2. This is Challengers Beach Tournament, or whatever they're calling it now. It's a new game, but in reality, I think they changed it just so that you wouldn't think it's a sequel to Challengers. What it is a standalone expansion of Challengers. You can play this. You can play regular Challengers. In fact, I'm not going to tell you how to play this. Go watch my review for Challengers. This plays the exact same way. It just has 6 new factions and has a few other minor rule changes. I'll show you those and we'll be back. So this has the different color mats than the first one did. So it has a lot of the same stuff in it. What's different, has 6 new factions. Actually, it has a extra faction here, the Rainbow faction, which mostly it counts as all sets. So this is something you could stick in any of the games to make the things easier to play with. But each of these factions has some difference. For example, the University faction here has a lot of cards that deal with fans. When you pick the cheerleader, take 2 fans. This card is +1 for each of your fans, excluding those on trophies. The coffee machine, and there's all sorts of different cards in this from the University. Then we have, here we have the sports people, and they often have, look, this is, if you don't win the flag, take a fan. If there's a card in your opponent's exhaust pile, put a card from your opponent's bench on their exhaust pile. So stuff like that. Here we have the Beach Club, and this, a lot of them have to do with your regular cards. Like they can share a seat with a newcomer card. Your newcomer cards are +1. So a lot of fun things in here. We have the Fairy Tale, where a lot of these cards are a lot of manipulation. Your cards are base power 4 +1. Choose a seat in your bench. Put all the cards in your exhaust pile. It's a great card for the fairy. Remove a card from your deck permanently. Things like that. There's a gingerbread man and a mirror and a unicorn. Here we have the, let's see, this is the pink ones here. These are like, you got zombies and things like that in here. These kind of the secret base, I guess they're spies. And here you're all about your exhaust pile. When this card's put on your bench, put on your exhaust pile instead. Put 2 of these cards from your bench on your exhaust pile. And then we have the toy store, which is, here's a game designer. Look at all those games. These are a lot of things that if you don't win the flag, so if you don't win the first time, your next card is +2. Put a level A card from your bench on top of your deck. There's a lot of different cool things in here. So these are new sets that are included in this. So nice new factions. I'm going to try to squish everything in one box. We'll see how that works. I'm not feeling particularly, we'll see if I can get everything in one box. But, you know, the original game and this one, they're like, use 5 factions in the game. I'm like, you have 6. So what you mean is pick one not to use. But now if you put them together, there's 12 factions. Now, if you're only going to get 1 challengers, this one's better because it has those special player powers, and it also has the rainbow cards, which I like a lot, and the upgraded dog. So this one's kind of better in a lot of different ways. But if you put these, if you mix them together, then you can use that in both of them. I don't think you need, like if you're like, I like challengers, I don't play it a ton. Do I need this? Not particularly. But if you love it, you want to get this. If you're interested in the game and don't have it at all, this is the one to get. I still think challengers is a lot of fun. The whole idea of building up your deck and then playing war against other people in a big party situation. It's amusing and entertaining, and I give this an 8 out of 10. Chicken is from Keymaster Games. Keymaster Games is an excellent company that makes really high quality games that then can be sold to the mass market and play them. Chicken is a dice rolling game, push your luck style game. Let's take a look. In this game, you're trying to get 25 points. So one person is going to take the white dice, and you're going to roll those dice. And on your first roll, you're going to set aside any chickens that you roll and foxes that you roll. Chickens will score you points, but if you ever roll 3 foxes, you've busted. So if you didn't bust, in this case, you're done. And these eggs here are going to add more dice. So yellow dice, or you each can add 1 yellow die. If I roll an egg on a yellow die, I'll add the orange dice here. There are more chickens on these other dice, but there are also more foxes. Then you have a choice. You can re-roll your dice or stop and count your chickens. So I'll re-roll my dice. So I got a fox, but no big deal. I've rolled 3 chickens. 1 re-roll, 3 points, my turn is over. I then take all the dice, pass them to the next person. So that person rolled 2 foxes. Ooh, dangerous. But they got no chickens. But happily, they're getting some more dice. So they'll take all these dice. Boom, they bust it. When you bust, you go back down to the 4 white dice. And you get no points. If at the beginning of your turn, you have all these dice and you don't want them, you can return all the yellow and orange dice. You lose 1 point for being a chicken, and then you roll these dice. So if I have all these dice, I could roll them. There's a chance I could roll 3 foxes, but look, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I got 9 points. So anyhow, that's how you play this, in quotation marks, game. Oh my word, this game is terrible. There's nothing I like about it. I like rolling dice and push your luck games, and I like simple ones. There is zombie dice. There are many different games where you just roll some dice, you can push your luck, Yahtzee and so on. Chicken is just bad all around. Now the production dice, and that's the only thing keeping me from giving it a 1. Spoiler, gets a 2 out of 10. But there's a box of terrain that came with the Kickstarter where you could put extra terrain pieces around the board for no reason at all. It doesn't make the game better. But you roll dice, you get points. You get eggs. You can re-roll once. That's not pushing your luck. You always re-roll once. And that's the thing about this game. There's no choices to be made. You roll the dice, you re-roll. You're like, but you have 2 foxes. Who cares? Getting a couple points isn't worth it. You want to get as many points as you possibly can. But the biggest sin of this game is that whole, hey, you can chicken out. You'll lose 1 point, go down to 4 dice. Someone worked it out online mathematically. That's always the worst option. If that's the worst option, you saw my roll in the thing. I rolled all the dice. I didn't get any fox heads. Now you might, but I'll take that chance rather than get -1 point and then roll 1 or 2 chickens. And then the next person gives better. And in a 3-player game, it can keep coming back. The same person would have to do that all the time because all the dice are going to be out. This is awful. There are lots of great dice games out there. There are lots of decent Keymaster games out there. This is horrific. I do not recommend it to anybody. Noobs in Space. Now this game I thought was going to be pretty bad based on the name, and the cover wasn't really selling me on it. But Noobs in Space is a cooperative campaign game. Also not something I was looking forward to. But they're short little games. They are 15 minutes or less each about. They can go a little bit longer. They mostly go shorter. I'm not going to give you an overview on this game because I don't want to spoil it for you. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how the game works here. There's a bunch of cards that this game comes with. See, this one shows a 2 and a 7 on it. On this one here has a 4 and a 7 on it. Some cards just have 1 number on it. Some cards have a lot of numbers on them. 1, 4, 5, and 7. What you're going to do in each mission is find all the cards for that mission. So I find all the cards with a 1 on. I shuffle these cards up. I give them to everybody. Everyone then looks at their cards. One of the cards will have mission 1 on it. That person reads that card, and then you accomplish mission 1. Then we do mission 2, and we go until all the missions are done. Once they're done, you look at the solution in the book. You see how well you've done. You see how much time you've taken. You time the game as it goes by. This, I can't really tell you much more than that, but you are allowed to, when you look at your cards, to say anything you want. You can read the card, describe the card. The only thing you can't do is show each other cards. And so this is a game of communication skills. And I'm not a big fan of limited communication, but this is complete communication, except you can't show people stuff. And it's really funny because people go, I need this, I want this, where's this? Is this even around? And someone will go, oh, I think I have the card that you guys are talking about. And I really, really enjoy that about the game. It is a blast. It's fun. It could be used as a team building exercise. And when you're done, you can just simply give the box to somebody else because they can play it. It comes with a bunch of green cards here. These are tutorial cards. You pass these out and that's the game. You play through these and it teaches you how the game plays. Didn't have any rules questions. I thought this one was a blast. A very entertaining game, and I mean, we played it, and we played through 4 missions, and then the next day we came back and played through the next 4 because it was that much fun. I want to try this with my family and other people. I think this one is going to be a hit with many people. It was just very, very enjoyable. So 8.5 out of 10 Noobs in Space. And that, folks, is 7 game reviews. As you can see, some are terrible, some are amazing, and then some are in between. Thanks so much for watching. Remember, if you like these short reviews and you just want to see the short review part of it, check out our sister channel, Dice Tower Encore, where we put these little short reviews up. Until next time, though, I'm Tom Vasel, and you've been watching the Dice Tower. We'll see you next time.